Hello. Well, I've been thinking about this topic for quite some time. You see, you know which are your favorite books to read, but which is your favorite book of the books you've written? That's an entirely different topic. I've thought about this, and you've heard me speak about my first book, called Acquaintances, and certainly that is a book of my heart. So much of hope and so much expectation goes into that first book. This is the new edition of it, new covers, but it's the same story. So it's not going to be that one that I choose, much as I love it. It could be 7 Days There, the first of a series of 6 books, and it was set, the first one particularly, in the Lake District, in the town of Ambleside, that I have a great love for. So I really enjoyed that book, but no, that doesn't make the list of my favorite of favorites. How about Mariette? This was a new adventure for me in writing. It was called, a series called A Journey of a Lifetime, about 4 entirely different young women and how their beginnings were changed into much better endings. This was a crime story. I'd never tried that. From the very first page, you know this is going to be a mystery and a crime that's to be solved. So that was an adventure, and I'm fond of it, but not my favorite. So what's left? Well, you might say that it could be this book, which I've mentioned before. Borderlines is very personal to me because of a family incident about a borderline personality disorder. And that was tricky, and I thought worthwhile, but not my favorite. So what's left? Well, we come to my favorite book, which is not the first in the series or the second in the series, but actually the third of a series. The series is Seafarers. Now, if you get the ebook, you'll see a much brighter cover than this one. So I had troubles with this book because I was trying to do something that's been done before. I took a whole lot of different people on a sea voyage, and many things happened to them, many different things. So it was as if you were seeing all kinds of things happen on this one journey, and maybe I overstretched myself a bit. So it didn't work out to be as popular as I'd hoped it would be. However, in the writing of the first one, Sea Changes, I developed a real affection for 2 particular characters. Now, these were 2 sisters, Emily and Gwen. And in the little flyer that I made for this series, I said, how can 2 impoverished sisters afford a luxury cruise each year? What other secrets are hidden on board? So these were the 2 impoverished sisters, Emily and Gwen. And indeed, they were leading some kind of a double life because they were poor as church mice, as the saying goes. But every year they trotted off on this same cruise ship line, had a wonderful holiday, invented stories along the way, and went back home and wrote them down in notebooks and pretty much lived on the pleasure of that for the rest of the year. But these 2 sisters stood out amongst all the other characters. And because of that, I wrote a sequel to the series called Sea Tides. So Sea Changes, Sea Tides, in which the 2 sisters are back home. Now, lots of things happened to them in those 2 books, but that's not my favorite either. However, when those 2 girls were developed, women rather, were developed more particularly, I really came to be interested in Gwen. Now, Gwen was the less popular of the 2 women, and she was pretty nasty at times, did not have the most pleasant manner with people, but I felt kind of sorry for her because her younger sister, Emily, was more attractive, and in fact, on the first sea voyage, managed to snag a very, very respectable, handsome, and in fact, wealthy man. Not what you would expect, but it happened. So by the time we get to book 3, Gwen's Gentleman, and this, I may tell you, is my favorite book, and you'll soon find out why. Gwen's Gentleman doesn't look like the other two, but you can see the C connection, obviously. Gwen, by this point, has made sort of a reconciliation about her sister Emily's good fortune in life. And at this point in the story, where the book begins, Gwen is living in the lower level of Emily's new husband's big house in Tunbridge Wells. Now, that leads her to an adventure, and the adventure is that she is cleaning around. Gwen was a great cleaner. She was cleaning around, dusting and tidying, and she discovers one of these hidden panels in a big wall of paneling, and it slides right back, and there inside is what looks to be like a diary or a journal. And that starts Gwen off on a great interest about a seaman called Elijah. And this part of the book, which is in italics, the excerpts from that seaman's journal, were the most exciting things for me to write, because it's all historical. And when you write about history, you have to make use of real facts, real places, real people. So my real adventure, which Gwen goes on as if it was happening to her, instead of just Elijah and his friends and his companions of the time. This adventure is to take the sailing ship that you see there all the way from London, England to Australia. Yes, this is one of the first ships that made that journey, scooping up all the people, the vagrants, the people who had no homes, the people who were begging on the streets of London, and really annoying the rich and famous. They were scooped up and put on board these ships and taken off the other side of the world, where if they behaved well and worked hard, they might just earn their freedom again. But on the other hand, they might not. So that whole adventure of Elijah, how he gets involved in this, what happens on that ship almost day by day, is this secret part of this journal that Gwen gets really involved in. And it changes her life, of course, because she's becoming a different person just by reading about all of this. And it turns out to be a matter of some interest, not just to Gwen and Emily, but to Emily's husband, Victor, whose house this is and whose family lived in this house. So there's a family connection there too. I just love this. I have to say that if you haven't noticed, history is one of my major interests, and being able to write a contemporary story set in England in which I could capture this whole amazing part of history was just a complete pleasure to me. So you now know. My favorite book that I have written is called Gwen's Gentleman, and it's part 3 of the Seafarers series that has 4 books in all. The last one is Gwen's Choices. So there's something to do with romance, as you can tell in this one. So I really loved it, and I still do. And you can find the ebook of this book, my favorite, free on lots of websites where ebooks are obtainable. If you try it, I know you'll love it, because I do. Take care.